Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And today's review is of Boom. So if you haven't watched it yet, please click off this video because there's going to be spoilers. And without further ado, let's get right into the story. Boom is a very interesting episode. First of all, it's written by Stephen Moffat, the absolute GOAT, the absolute legend of Doctor Who writing. And secondly, it has a very interesting twist to it. The story starts off with two soldiers on a battlefield, trying to get back to their encampment, but one of them's blind, and the other one seems to be using some kind of metal detector / landmine detector in order to navigate their way through the minefield. But sadly, he stands on a landmine and ends up going up in atoms. The other person ends up in a bit of a tricky situation. He finds himself attacked by an ambulance, which isn't like a conventional ambulance. It's kind of a machine which judges whether or not people are fit enough to live or to die. Elsewhere, unbeknown to them about the chaos and the magnitude of the situation, the Doctor and Ruby head off into the planet. The Doctor points out that it seems to be a very old war or a very new one, by the judging of the technology. He even points out that Villain Guard has a very big say in where the weapons are coming from and that they have manufactured them to play with the sides of war, to profit and to take advantage of any situation. The Doctor wanders off as Ruby gets her bearings, but unbeknown to him, he ends up standing on a landmine, in which he will stay for the majority of this episode, stranded and stuck in an endless motion, worried and unsure on how to get off of the landmine without setting it off. Ruby doesn't realise he's gone on the landmine, so she goes over to discover where the Doctor's gone. All of a sudden, she hears singing in the distance. It's the Doctor. He's been calming himself on top of the landmine in order to keep himself from activating it and it causing a catastrophic explosion. The pair then come across a capsule of a dead remaining soldier. Soon they learn it is the father of a young girl called Splicer. Splicer is from a local encampment who has been surviving out on a war they can't seem to understand. A war they don't even know who they're fighting. All they know is that they live in the mud. After Splicer wanders off looking for her father, she is followed by her friend Monday. Monday is another cleric soldier who seems to be looking for answers to what's going on. When she comes across the fact that the Doctor has a cylinder of the remains of Splice's father, she immediately detests him that he should drop it and let the mine go off and destroy him in the process. But little does she know, the Doctor's not human. And so the bomb going off would take half the planet with it, including their encampment. The team find themselves in a crossfire of a situation they can't seem to unravel, a situation that could easily become nuclear. So, they try and devise a scheme to get the Doctor off of the landmine, and also for the team to return back to encampment and get on with their lives. But soon, the situation becomes even worse than it already is. The ambulance begins to arrive, and knowing the fear of what it can do, Monday suggests that Ruby shoots Monday in order to alert the ambulance's presence. But in doing so, this sends a mixed signal to Monday's almost boyfriend, who begins to assume that Ruby is trying to kill her. In doing so, Ruby ends up plummeting to her death. Well, sort of death, for a moment. On the verge of life and death, the ambulance asks Ruby who her next of kin is, and the doctor and her are stuck in a state of chaos, both of them torn apart by the fact that they both don't know who Ruby's real mother is, and that they are both torn apart by where Ruby Sunday's life even began. Who would she turn to for next of kin? And so the pair bicker. Ruby's life signs slowly begin to fade, and the ambulance begins to say that she is beyond hope. But the doctor pleads to the ambulance that there is no problem with Ruby and that she will recover and that everyone will recover. But soon they learn that the ambulance is the problem and not the war. The war doesn't exist. The war is a fallacy, it's a joke, it's an absolute replica of what society does. And it shows how easily two sides can be manipulated into believing they are fighting one another, when the real monster is the algorithm. The doctor then points out to the hologram of Splicer's father that to resolve the issue, he must go into the database, he must corrupt it, he must hack it, he must become a virus to the system and correct things. And so he does it. And in doing so, this cancels out the mine and saves the doctor's lives and many others in the process. But sadly, it's too late for Monday's boyfriend, and he has already been taken by the ambulance. Before leaving, the doctor has a conversation with Splicer about the death of her father, and Splicer says that he is not gone. He's not gone. He's not gone. He's not gone. I will see him once again. He's not gone. And then, when the doctor and Ruby return to the TARDIS, he points out to Ruby that we're all dead in the end, really. We all die. But we're not really gone. Never really gone. Remnants are always there. Pieces of the puzzle. Just waiting to be fixed, to be seen, to be understood. We're never really gone. So now for the moment you've all been waiting for. Boom. Was it a good story? It was a fantastic story. Moffat was cooking in this story. He didn't leave any crumbs, and he told a fantastic story from start to finish. He told a story about love, loss, and joy, and he also showed heartbreak. He showed tragedy. He really tore at the heartstrings or the foundations of this story. He showed how vulnerable the Doctor could become without hope and without faith. This story does heavily talk about the concept of faith and how it defines things and how it flows through things and how it really does make a difference. In general, this story is a great symbolism of how faith can be distorted and how it can be challenged in its most toughest of times. And for that reason, I give Boom a 10 out of 10. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all identities and sexualities, for watching, and we will see you in another Doctor Who review. Until then, stay beautiful.